A corroded bronze gear rests deep within an ancient shipwreck, a piece of technology impossibly ahead of its time. This is the world of ancient machines found in contexts that challenge everything we think we know about the past. By the end of our journey, you will see the entire timeline of human progress in a startling new light. We will uncover how a 2,000-year-old device could predict eclipses and why a simple clay jar might have generated electricity. Are you ready to question everything you learned about history? A corroded bronze gear is far more than just an old tool. To truly grasp the mystery, we must first define what makes an ancient machine challenge our entire historical timeline. It is not simply about age. It is about an artifact that embodies a concept, a sophistication, a scientific principle that, according to our established history books, should not exist in that time and place. Think of it like finding a single, perfectly formed microchip in a medieval castle. The object itself is an anomaly, a quiet but profound contradiction to the story we tell ourselves about human progress. For an object to earn this label, it must pass several tests. First, its complexity. Was it a simple lever or a wheel? Those are brilliant inventions, but they fit our understanding of their era. A timeline-challenging machine involves intricate components working in concert, like interlocking gears or precisely calibrated scales. Second, the materials and manufacturing. Does it show evidence of metal alloys or machining techniques that were not thought to be developed for centuries? Third, and perhaps most importantly, is the knowledge it represents. Does the device imply a deep understanding of astronomy, physics, or engineering that scholars are certain ancient people did not possess? This careful definition is our shield against mere misinterpretation or, worse, deliberate hoaxes. It forces us to look past the initial excitement and ask the hard questions. How was it found? What was its archaeological context? Could it have been a later object that simply fell into an older layer of earth? By setting this high bar, we ensure that the examples we explore are not just curiosities, but genuine puzzles that stand up to scrutiny. They are the artifacts that refuse to fit neatly into our chronological drawers, forcing us to reconsider the very map of human innovation. That corroded bronze gear we began with was no mere component. It was part of the Antikythera Mechanism, a name that now echoes through the halls of archaeology as a profound and beautiful mystery. Recovered from a Roman-era shipwreck off the coast of a small Greek island, this lump of calcified metal spent decades in a museum drawer, labeled as little more than a curious trinket. It was only when researchers began to peer inside with advanced X-ray and imaging technology that the true miracle was revealed. They were not looking at a simple statue or a navigational tool. They were staring into the heart of an ancient analog computer. This was not a machine of levers and pulleys for moving heavy stones. This was a machine of intricate ideas designed to track the complex dance of the heavens. Its purpose was to predict the positions of planets, the phases of the moon, and the precise timing of solar and lunar eclipses, all with a turn of a hand crank. The sheer complexity of its internal gear train is what truly shatters expectations. Dozens upon dozens of interlocking bronze gears worked in concert, including a specific assembly known as a differential gear. This particular innovation was believed to have been invented in the 16th century for use in modern automobiles. Yet here it was, a perfectly functional part of a device built over 2,000 years ago. This single mechanism, small enough to be held in your hands, implies an entire lost world of Hellenistic science and engineering. It suggests a tradition of technical knowledge so advanced that it would not be matched for more than a millennium. The Antikythera Mechanism is not just an outlier. It is a silent, undeniable witness to a level of sophistication we never knew existed, forcing us to completely re-evaluate the engineering capabilities of the ancient Greek world. While the Antikythera Mechanism represents a pinnacle of mechanical complexity, another discovery from the ancient world hints at a mastery of an entirely different force. In the dust of a 2,000-year-old Parthian village, archaeologists uncovered a most peculiar object. It was a simple clay jar about the size of a man's fist, sealed with an asphalt stopper. Inside, they found a rolled copper sheet and a solid iron rod. At first glance, it seemed like nothing more than a curious container, perhaps meant to hold precious scrolls. But the specific combination of these materials sparked a revolutionary idea. If this jar were filled with an acidic liquid, something as common as vinegar or grape juice, it would cease to be a simple pot. It would become a battery. The chemistry is straightforward. The acidic electrolyte would react with the two different metals, causing electrons to flow from the iron rod to the copper cylinder, creating a small but measurable electric current. Replicas built using the exact specifications of the so-called Baghdad Battery have consistently produced just over 1 volt of electricity. Now, 1 volt is not a lot of power. It will not light a bright bulb or power any significant device. But what could this subtle, steady current have been used for? The most compelling theory points to the well-documented ancient practice of electroplating. Artisans of the time were skilled at gilding silver objects with a thin layer of gold, a process we assumed was purely chemical. Yet, if a silversmith had a handful of these clay jar cells connected together, the resulting electrical charge could have provided a far more efficient and controlled method for binding gold particles onto a silver surface. The object itself is the evidence. The asphalt seal was impermeable, perfect for containing a liquid without evaporation, but entirely unnecessary for storing dry scrolls. Furthermore, the iron rod showed clear signs of corrosion from an acidic agent. Was this humble jar an ancient power source, a tool for plating jewelry that was later misunderstood and lost to time? We may never find a wire or a connected device to prove its function beyond doubt. Yet its very existence, a perfectly functional electrochemical cell from 2 millennia ago, forces a difficult question. Did multiple cultures stumble upon the principles of electricity not in laboratories, but in their workshops, using it for practical crafts long before it was formally understood and named? The intricate gears of the Antikythera Mechanism and the subtle current of the Baghdad Battery at least belong to recognizable cultures and time frames. But some discoveries seem to defy explanation so utterly that they border on the fantastic. This brings us to a small, hard lump of rock found in the mountains of California. In 1961, a group of rock collectors were searching the Coso Mountains when they discovered what appeared to be a perfectly ordinary geode. Eager to see the crystalline structure inside, they carefully sawed it in half, but there were no sparkling crystals. Instead, embedded solidly within the stone, was a mysterious circular object made of porcelain and metal. To their astonishment, it looked exactly like a modern spark plug. The rock itself was subjected to analysis, and the initial geological assessment suggested it was an astounding 500,000 years old. This claim sent shockwaves through fringe history circles. How could a manufactured object, a piece of 20th century technology, be encased in stone that formed long before modern humans even walked the earth? The implications were staggering, pointing to either an impossibly advanced lost civilization or, for some, visitors from beyond our world. Yet this is where the story takes a critical turn and where the principles of scientific scrutiny become paramount. Skeptics soon offered a far more mundane explanation. They argued that the object was not a true geode at all, but a concretion. Concretions are hard, compact masses of mineral matter that can form very quickly around a pre-existing object, much like a pearl forms around a grain of sand. In this case, the nucleus was likely a genuine champion spark plug from the 1920s, a common brand used in early automobiles and Model T Fords. The rock hunters, they proposed, had simply found a concretion that had formed around a discarded plug over a few decades, not millennia. This explanation accounts for the spark plug's modern appearance and the hard casing around it. The Coso Artifact stands as a powerful cautionary tale. It underscores the absolute necessity of understanding an object's context before drawing earth-shattering conclusions. The initial excitement was based on a misidentification of the rock itself. This case highlights the constant tension in archaeology between the thrilling allure of a world-altering mystery and the disciplined, often painstaking process of verification. It reminds us that for every genuine anomaly that reshapes history, there may be several others that are simply modern artifacts in disguise, waiting for a sober second look to reveal their true and often more ordinary story. Perhaps the most elegant and perplexing of all these ancient puzzles is an object that fits in the palm of your hand. Found in a tomb at Saqqara, Egypt, and dated to around 200 BC, the Saqqara Bird is a beautiful artifact carved from sycamore wood. At first glance, it appears to be a simple, stylized model of a bird, perhaps a falcon, a common religious symbol, but a closer look reveals a design that makes no sense for a creature of the air. Real birds have horizontal tails for stability and steering. The Saqqara Bird, however, features a distinct, upright tail fin, a feature that is entirely vertical. This is not the anatomy of any living animal. This unique shape caught the attention of modern aerodynamics engineers who proposed a startling possibility. What if this was not a model of a bird, but a scale model of something else entirely, a monoplane or a glider? To test this theory, researchers built precise, scaled-up replicas of the artifact. When launched, these models did something remarkable. They flew. They demonstrated stable glide characteristics, capable of carrying a small payload for a significant distance, provided a small horizontal stabilizer was added to the tail, a feature that could have been lost from the original wooden object. So what are we to make of this? Was it merely a child's toy, a lucky guess that happened to possess aerodynamic properties its creator never intended? Or was it a ceremonial object, an idol that somehow incorporated a design principle its makers did not fully comprehend? The most tantalizing possibility is that it represents a spark of genuine proto-engineering. It suggests that through keen observation, perhaps of seeds spinning on the wind or of the way certain fish leapt from the water, an ancient artisan began to codify the principles of lift and stability. The Saqqara Bird is not a machine with moving parts, but it is a machine in concept. It embodies a specific, functional idea that should not, according to our timeline, have been explored for another 2,000 years. It forces us to ask whether the seeds of flight were first planted not in the workshops of the Renaissance, but in the dry, still air of the Egyptian desert. A pillar of iron that has stood for 16 centuries without rusting sounds like a tale from legend, yet it is a solid, tangible fact. In the heart of Delhi, a 7-meter-tall iron column rises from the ground, forged during the reign of the Gupta Empire over 1,600 years ago. While iron structures from the industrial era crumble and flake after mere decades, this ancient pillar remains remarkably pristine, its surface smooth and resistant to the relentless assault of rain, wind, and sun. The secret to its longevity is not magic, but a stunningly advanced understanding of metallurgy. The ancient Indian ironsmiths who created it used a process that resulted in a unique chemical composition. The iron itself possesses a high phosphorus content, and over time, this interacted with the environment to form an incredibly thin, protective film on the metal surface. This layer, a specific crystalline compound called mesawite, acts as a permanent, self-repairing shield. It prevents oxygen and moisture from reaching the raw iron beneath, effectively stopping the process of corrosion before it can even begin. What makes this so extraordinary is that this passive protective layer is a cornerstone of modern metallurgy. We use the same fundamental principle today to protect steel in everything from skyscrapers to ships, yet we only mastered the science in the 20th century. The pillar, then, is not a machine with moving parts, but a monumental machine in its own right, engineered at the molecular level. It stands as a silent, enduring testament to a material science that was not just ahead of its time, but millennia ahead. How did such a precise and sophisticated technique arise, only to be seemingly forgotten by the rest of the world for ages? This single column of metal challenges the very linear narrative of progress, suggesting that pinnacles of knowledge were reached, lost, and then independently rediscovered in a cycle we are only just beginning to comprehend. Deep within the dark stone corridors of the Hathor Temple at Dendera, Egypt, a series of strange reliefs cover the walls. They show massive, bulb-shaped objects, and inside each one a snake stretches lengthwise, its head pointed toward one end. This serpent is held by a standing figure, while a cable seems to connect the base of the bulb to a box held by a priest. To the modern eye, the resemblance is startling. It looks for all the world like a giant ancient light bulb, complete with a filament and a power cable. The mainstream explanation from Egyptology is rooted in deep symbolism. This is not a technical diagram, they argue, but a spiritual one. The scene represents the creation myth of a snake being born from a lotus flower, an image tied to concepts of fertility, life, and cosmic emergence. The so-called cable is a lotus stem, and the box is a sacred jed pillar, a symbol of stability. The entire tableau fits perfectly within the known language of Egyptian religious art. Yet, the alternative hypothesis is irresistible. What if we are not looking at a metaphor but a manual? Proponents of the Dendera Light theory suggest these are literal depictions of Crookes tubes, an early type of electrical light. In this interpretation, the snake represents the glowing filament, the bulb is a vacuum tube, and the priests are operating an arc lamp, illuminating the temple's inner sanctums with a cold, electric glow. This idea forces us into a difficult choice. Do we trust the established academic interpretation, which sees a culture expressing its cosmology through a rich symbolic language we have spent centuries decoding? Or do we take the image at its face value to our own technologically biased eyes? The true challenge of Dendera is not merely about whether ancient Egyptians had light bulbs. It is about how we interpret the past. Are we seeing what was actually there, or are we projecting our own world onto theirs, mistaking their sacred symbols for our practical schematics? This single set of carvings creates a rift between two ways of seeing, leaving us to wonder if we have fundamentally misunderstood the nature of their knowledge. These perfect stone boxes present a different kind of puzzle, one not of function but of fabrication. Scattered across ancient sites in Egypt and South America are stone artifacts that bear the subtle, telltale marks of a technology we do not believe existed. This is not the rough-hewn work of chisels and hammers. Look closely at the artifacts from the Serapeum of Saqqara, at those colossal granite boxes meant to hold sacred bulls. Their surfaces are not merely smooth, they are flawlessly flat to a degree that challenges modern machining. the internal and external corners are not just sharp. They are sharper than a surgical razor, meeting at perfect 90-degree angles across vast spans of stone. How do you achieve such a finish on granite, one of the hardest stones on Earth, using simple copper tools? Copper is softer than granite. A copper chisel would shatter against it, barely leaving a scratch. The evidence only deepens when we examine the marks left behind. In several locations, we find clear evidence of core drilling. A hollow tube was used to drill deep into solid stone, and the grooves left on the recovered core samples are not random. They are consistent, precise spiral grooves. The spacing of these grooves indicates a steady, unvarying feed rate and a cutting pressure that would be nearly impossible to maintain with a hand-powered bow drill. It is the signature of a powered tool, one that applied immense, consistent force. The ancient artisans were not just shaping stone, they were machining it, treating granite and diorite with the same precision a modern machinist would apply to a block of aluminum. This implies a level of industrial capability that simply does not fit our timeline. We are left with a profound disconnect. The official history gives them soft metal tools and stone pounders, yet the artifacts they left behind scream of advanced engineering. Were these techniques the guarded secrets of a master craftsman's guild, knowledge so specialized it died with them? Or does this stone evidence point to a forgotten chapter in human ingenuity, one where the whine of a precision drill once echoed through the Egyptian darkness? Stretched across the arid plains of southern Peru, an entire landscape becomes a canvas for the impossible. The Nazca Lines are not objects you can hold in your hand, but they represent a form of engineering so vast it defies easy comprehension. Enormous geoglyphs of a hummingbird, a spider, a monkey, and precise geometric shapes are etched into the dark desert floor, some stretching for over a kilometer. From the ground, they are mere shallow grooves, lines of displaced pebbles. Their true form, a form of breathtaking precision and scale, is only revealed from high above. This fact alone presents the core of the mystery. How, and more importantly why, would a people from 2,000 years ago create monumental art they could never see? The construction itself was a feat of staggering coordination. It required master surveyors who could translate a small-scale design into a perfectly proportioned giant without the aid of aerial vision. They likely used a system of stakes and ropes, scaling up the patterns over vast distances while maintaining flawless straight lines and graceful curves across the uneven terrain. This was not random scratching, this was landscape engineering. This has led to a compelling theory. Perhaps these lines were not merely art but a different kind of machine. Think of a machine not as something with gears and levers, but as a constructed system designed to perform a specific function. Could the entire Nazca Plateau have been a single terrestrial machine? One prominent idea casts it as a colossal astronomical calendar. Certain lines are known to align with the solstice sun and other celestial bodies, suggesting the desert itself was used as a giant observatory, tracking the cycles of the heavens. Another theory posits they were pathways for ritual processions, where walking the specific shapes was a form of spiritual technology, a machine for generating religious experience. And then there is the more speculative, yet persistent, notion that these markings were intended as signals or landing guides for aerial beings, a concept that forces us to question everything about the Nazca worldview. Regardless of which theory resonates, the fundamental challenge remains. The Nazca Lines embody a mechanical way of thinking applied to the Earth itself. They represent a vision that planned in kilometers, not centimeters, and executed that vision with a precision that humbles modern engineers. This was not a handheld device, but a machine woven into the very fabric of the land, a permanent and puzzling testament to a culture that saw the world as a system to be engineered on a truly monumental scale. Drawn on gazelle skin in 1513, a Turkish admiral's map presents a geographical riddle that cuts to the very core of our historical knowledge. The Piri Reis Map is a stunningly accurate portrayal of coastlines from Europe to Africa to the Americas, but its most baffling feature lies at its southern extreme. There, clearly delineated, is the western coast of Antarctica. This is impossible. The frozen continent was not officially sighted by human eyes for another 300 years. And yet the map shows it. The mystery deepens exponentially when you consider what the map depicts. This is not the Antarctica we know today, a landmass buried under miles of solid ice. The Piri Reis Map shows the coastline in stunning detail, but it shows it as a land free of its glacial covering. For Antarctica to have looked like this, you would have to go back to a time long before the rise of human civilization, to an epoch millions of years in the past. How could a 16th century cartographer have mapped a continent he could not see, showing a geography that had been invisible for eons? The mapmaker himself provided a clue that only deepens the enigma. Admiral Piri Reis wrote that his world map was a compilation, a synthesis of many older source charts. He specifically cited maps dating back to the time of Alexander the Great, and even older ones from 4,000 years before his own time. Think about what that implies. It suggests the original source for the Antarctic coastline was not a product of the age of exploration, but a relic from a far more distant and unknown age. This points to the existence of a prehistoric seafaring civilization, a culture with the ships to navigate the globe and the advanced mathematical knowledge to create accurate spherical projections of the Earth's surface. The map itself is a machine of sorts, a complex device of compiled data and coordinated information. It is the output of a lost system of exploration and cartography. The information it contains had to be gathered, verified, and then translated onto a flat surface with a consistency that defies the known capabilities of ancient sailors. Could it be that our entire understanding of human exploration is backwards? Perhaps the great ages of discovery were not beginnings, but rediscoveries, echoes of a global mapping project conducted in a forgotten chapter of human history, whose only surviving fragment is this single, impossible chart. Another kind of machine leaves no trace in stone or metal, but is built entirely from information. The Voynich Manuscript is a book that refuses to be read. Carbon dated to the early 15th century, this illustrated codex is filled from cover to cover with an alphabet of graceful, curling characters that form a language unknown to any nation or scholar on Earth. For over a century, the world's top cryptographers, linguists, and mathematicians have tried to crack its code, applying everything from wartime code-breaking techniques to complex computer algorithms. Every single attempt has ended in failure. The text does not yield. It is a lock with no key, a message that remains stubbornly silent, but the words are only half the mystery. The other half lies in the bizarre and beautiful illustrations that accompany them. Here we find plants that have no counterpart in the natural world, with leaves that spiral in impossible formations and roots that look like intricate chemical diagrams. We see charts of the stars that depict celestial systems utterly alien to both Ptolemaic and Copernican astronomy. There are even sections showing small, nude women bathing in what appears to be a system of interconnected green pools and pipes, a strange biological or perhaps hydraulic process. The sheer strangeness of these images has led some researchers to a radical theory. What if we are looking at this all wrong? What if the Voynich Manuscript is not a book of spells or a simple herbal guide, but a technical manual? The repetitive, structured nature of the script does not resemble poetry or narrative. It looks more like a list of instructions, a sequence of steps for a complex procedure. The illustrations, then, would not be pictures of real plants or real stars, but schematic diagrams. That unknown plant could be a representation of a chemical process, its leaves depicting the flow of liquids or energies. The bathing women might be illustrating a stage in an alchemical or medical process, a form of biological technology we no longer understand. This would make the manuscript a machine made of vellum and ink, a device whose purpose is to encode and transmit a specific set of operational knowledge. The code itself would be its most vital component, not meant to hide secrets from rivals, but to precisely describe a technology so advanced and so alien to our way of thinking that our modern minds simply lack the context to even begin decoding its meaning. It stands as the ultimate locked door, and we are left to wonder if the technology it describes was so powerful or so dangerous that its creators chose to bury it in a language that would die with them. The most iconic ancient structure on Earth might also be the most misunderstood machine of all. We call it the Great Pyramid of Giza, a tomb for a pharaoh. But its internal architecture tells a different story, one of breathtaking complexity that seems to have little to do with burial. Deep inside, this mountain of stone is a labyrinth of precise angles and enigmatic chambers. From the king's chamber, narrow shafts, often called air shafts, pierce through the massive masonry to point directly at specific stars in the night sky, like Orion's belt. This is not random construction. It is deliberate celestial alignment built into the very heart of the structure. Then there is the Grand Gallery, a soaring, corbelled hallway that feels more like a technological installation than a ceremonial passage. Its walls are not smooth. They are marked by a series of curious slots, sometimes called grappling holes, whose purpose remains completely unknown. And far below, a rough, unfinished subterranean pit plunges into the bedrock, a feature that defies any simple funerary explanation. So what was this place truly for? The sheer precision and scale of these features have spawned theories that push the boundaries of imagination. One compelling idea suggests the pyramid was a massive energy generator. The theory hinges on the pyramid's materials. The king's chamber is built from huge blocks of granite, a stone known for its piezoelectric properties. This means that under immense pressure, like the weight of millions of tons of stone above it, granite can generate a small electrical charge. Could the entire structure have been designed to harness terrestrial energy, vibrating in resonance with the Earth itself? Others see it as the world's most sophisticated astronomical observatory. The Grand Gallery, with its slanted floor and precise angles, could have been used to track the movement of stars with incredible accuracy, a giant sighting tube frozen in stone. Another hypothesis even proposes it was a colossal water pump, using harmonic vibration and air pressure changes to move water from the Nile deep into the plateau. While these ideas sound like science fiction, they all stem from the same undeniable reality. The engineering principles on display here, the perfect alignments, the handling of immense forces, and the choice of specific materials, point toward a functional purpose we have simply failed to recognize. The Great Pyramid does not feel like a silent tomb. It feels like a machine of monumental scale, its switches thrown and its gears stilled, waiting for us to finally understand the language of its design. These silent stone giants stand with their backs to the sea, gazing inland across the rolling hills of one of the most isolated islands on Earth. The Moai of Rapa Nui, or Easter Island, are more than just colossal faces. They are the final pieces of an engineering puzzle that spanned miles. The real marvel is not that they were carved, but that they were moved. How does a community with no wheels, no draft animals, and no metal transport nearly 900 multi-ton statues across rugged, uneven terrain? The quarry at Rano Raraku is a haunting landscape, littered with partially completed figures still locked in the volcanic rock. From this central source, the finished moai began their incredible journeys to ceremonial platforms dotting the coastline, some traveling over 10 miles. The sheer scale of this logistical operation is staggering. Modern engineers have long scratched their heads, proposing that the islanders must have used sleds, rollers, or even laid down roads of sweet potatoes to lubricate the path. Yet the most compelling answer comes not from modern textbooks, but from the island's own oral traditions. They say the statues walked. This is not a poetic metaphor, but a literal description of a brilliant technique. Experimental archaeology has proven it is possible. Teams using nothing but strong ropes can make a multi-ton moai statue walk upright by rocking it from side to side. With one team pulling a rope forward to tilt the statue onto one corner of its base, and another team controlling its descent with a stabilizing rope from behind, the massive figure can be inched along in a swaying, rhythmic gait. This method is a masterpiece of applied physics. It transforms the statue from a dead weight into a dynamic, pivoting system. The process is a human-powered machine in its purest form. The ropes act as cables, the people as the motive force, and the coordinated rocking motion is the precise, repetitive action of an engine. It required an immense understanding of balance, leverage, and collective timing. A single misstep could mean a shattered monument and lost lives. This was not a chaotic tug of war, but a disciplined, rhythmic operation, likely accompanied by chants or drum beats to keep every pull in perfect sync. The successful transport of the moai completely shatters any simplistic view of the islanders as a primitive society that collapsed under its own ambition. Instead, it reveals a culture of brilliant practical engineers who devised an elegant, counterintuitive solution to one of history's most daunting moving problems. They did not just carve statues, they built a temporary walking machine for each one, a testament to human ingenuity that walked its way into legend. Scattered across the fertile river delta of Costa Rica, hundreds of stone spheres rest in the jungle grass. Crafted by the Dikwis culture beginning around 300 AD, these objects range from the size of a bowling ball to colossal orbs over 2 meters across, weighing several tons. Their most arresting feature is not their size, but their impossible perfection. Many of these granite spheres are so precisely round that their diameter varies by less than a single centimeter from any point on their surface. This is not the rough, approximate shape of a river-worn stone. This is geometry made solid, a feat of engineering that seems to defy the tools of the era. How could a culture using simple stone hammers and chisels achieve such a flawless, machined-like finish on one of the hardest materials on Earth? The process itself remains a profound mystery. Archaeologists theorize that the artisans likely began by roughing out the shape from a giant boulder using heat and water to fracture the stone, then painstakingly pecked and ground it down over generations. But achieving a perfect sphere this way is an almost unimaginable task. It would require a constant, unwavering mental model of three-dimensional form and a method for continuously checking for high and low spots across the entire surface, a process of refinement that borders on the obsessive. So what drove this incredible effort? Some researchers propose they were celestial markers, arranged to point toward solstices or significant stars, turning the landscape into a giant astronomical calendar. Others see them as symbols of power and status, the ancient equivalent of displaying immense wealth through impossible art. But the most intriguing possibility is that they were never meant to be seen as individual objects. Perhaps they were components in a vast, sprawling configuration, arranged in specific geometric patterns or alignments that we can no longer decipher. Their perfect shape might have been functionally necessary, allowing them to be rolled into precise positions or to interact with some form of terrestrial energy in a way a rough stone could not. Each sphere is a silent, polished question. They represent a manufacturing process so meticulous, so focused on an ideal form, that it feels less like art and more like the output of a forgotten technology, a method for imposing perfect order onto the chaotic heart of a mountain. High on a temple wall in Abydos, a stone canvas tells two very different stories. Carved into the plaster are hieroglyphs that, to a modern eye, look unmistakably like a helicopter with a clear rotor and tail, alongside what appears to be a submarine and a futuristic jet plane. It is an image that seems to tear a hole in time, suggesting ancient Egyptians possessed a vision of technology millennia ahead of their own. This is the Abydos Helicopter, and it presents a riddle that is not about a physical machine, but about the very nature of interpretation itself. How do we explain such a precise and impossible coincidence? The answer lies not in prophecy, but in the practical politics of ancient pharaohs. Egyptologists point to a common practice known as palimpsest. The temple was originally built by Seti I. After his death, his son, Rameses II, often recarved his father's cartouches, the oval frames that held a king's name, to insert his own. This involved plastering over the old inscriptions and carving new ones directly on top. Over centuries, the plaster has fallen away, revealing not one set of carvings, but two. The overlapping symbols, never meant to be seen together, have merged into entirely new and accidental shapes. The helicopter is not a single, intentional design. It is a chaotic collage, a ghost image created by the eroded remnants of two separate royal names colliding in stone. This explanation, however, does not entirely dissolve the mystery's power. The controversy forces a critical choice upon us. Do we trust the established, contextual explanation provided by decades of Egyptological scholarship, one that fits a known pattern of behavior and material evidence? Or do we trust our own immediate, technologically biased perception, which screams that we are looking at a helicopter? This is the core tension. The Abydos Helicopter is a perfect Rorschach test for how we view the past. We project our own world onto theirs, seeing our machines in their sacred script. It highlights the human brain's incredible, sometimes misleading, talent for finding familiar patterns in random noise, a phenomenon known as pareidolia, where we see faces in clouds or animals in rock formations. So, is this a case of lost knowledge or simply a fascinating historical accident? The weight of evidence firmly sides with the palimpsest. Yet, the enduring appeal of the helicopter glyph reminds us that the most compelling ancient mysteries are not always about what was truly there, but about what we so desperately want to see. A similar case of mistaken antiquity emerged from the banks of a creek in Texas. Known as the London hammer, this ordinary-looking tool with a wooden handle and an iron head was discovered in 1936, completely encased within a solid nodule of rock. The stone itself was identified as belonging to a Cretaceous rock formation, a layer of the Earth famously dating back well over 100 million years. The image is undeniably startling, a seemingly modern tool locked in stone from an age when dinosaurs ruled the planet. For those who challenge conventional timelines, this was a smoking gun, definitive proof that humans or some intelligent being existed far earlier than science admits. Yet, as with the Coso Artifact, the true story lies not in the object itself, but in the natural processes that surrounded it. Geologists point to a phenomenon known as concretion. In certain chemical conditions, minerals in water can precipitate and cement around any hard object, forming a solid, rock-like shell in a surprisingly short period. A hammer lost in a creek bed a few centuries or even just a few decades ago could easily become the nucleus for such a concretion. The hard casing is not proof of immense age, but rather proof of a specific and efficient geological process. This is why the hammer's undocumented discovery is so crippling to its credibility. It was not excavated by archaeologists from a sealed, datable layer. It was simply found already freed from the rock by hikers. Without that precise, professionally recorded context, we are left with an unanswerable question. Which is more likely, that the entire timeline of life on Earth is wrong, or that a relatively recent tool became encased in a rock that merely looks ancient? The London hammer stands as a perfect example of an intriguing curiosity, a puzzle that highlights the absolute necessity of rigorous scientific context. It is a cautionary tale that reminds us extraordinary claims require more than just a single, strangely situated object. They require an unbroken, verifiable chain of evidence from the moment of discovery. Another artifact pushes the boundaries of belief even further, carved not in granite but in a single, circular piece of black stone. Known as the genetic disc, this object, allegedly from a pre-Columbian culture in Colombia, presents a gallery of biological knowledge that feels ripped from a modern medical textbook. Its surface is a dense tapestry of intricate carvings, depicting scenes that some researchers interpret as the complete human life cycle. There are clear, unmistakable images of sperm cells fertilizing an ovum. Next, you can see the stages of cell division, the zygote splitting again and again. And further along the disc's rim, small, curled forms appear to show fetuses in various stages of development. This is not symbolic art. It is a sequential, anatomical illustration of a process that requires a microscope to observe. The profound problem is immediate. Such detailed understanding of human embryology is completely absent from everything we know about ancient South American cultures. Their knowledge of the human body was advanced in many ways, but this level of microscopic, cellular insight would represent a scientific leap of centuries, if not millennia. So how could such a thing exist? The mystery here hinges not on the object's function, but on its very existence. The genetic disc stands on the most precarious ground of all, a foundation of highly disputed provenance. Its discovery was not documented by professional archaeologists. It seemingly appeared from the murky world of private collections, with its origins in Colombia difficult, if not impossible, to verify. This lack of a clear scientific context is a fatal flaw in the eyes of many experts, who point to it as a likely, albeit skillful, modern forgery. It represents the other extreme of this entire field. On one end, we have the Antikythera Mechanism, an object whose authenticity is unquestioned, forcing us to rewrite history to account for its existence. On the other end, we have the genetic disc, an object whose message is so shocking that its own reality becomes the central puzzle. It serves as a crucial, sobering reminder. The thrilling allure of a world-changing find must always be tempered by the unglamorous, meticulous work of authentication. Without that rigorous process as our bedrock, we are not exploring history. We are merely collecting compelling stories, left to wonder if we are looking at a forgotten chapter of biology or an elaborate and beautiful lie. This final case plunges us into a world where history itself seems to be rewritten in stone. In the 1960s, a farmer from the Ica region of Peru began offering local collectors something extraordinary: thousands of carved stones depicting scenes that shattered conventional timelines. On their surfaces, humans lived alongside stegosaurs and triceratops, engaged in what looked like domestication or even battle. Other stones illustrated complex medical operations, including detailed heart transplants and cesarean sections performed with precise instruments. Some even showed advanced astronomical knowledge, with maps of constellations and celestial bodies. These Ica stones created an immediate firestorm, presenting a vision of a past where ancient Peruvians possessed biological and paleontological understanding that should have been impossible. The sheer volume of the stones and the confidence of their carvings made them a compelling, if bewildering, anomaly. Yet the mystery unraveled almost as quickly as it began. Under scrutiny, the farmer who provided the stones eventually admitted they were a hoax. He confessed to carving the images himself using a dental drill, then aging the stones by baking them in cow dung and burying them to give them a patina of antiquity. The entire collection was a fabrication, a story crafted not by an ancient civilization, but by a modern individual capitalizing on the public's deep desire for the impossible. So why do these stones still captivate us long after their debunking? They stand as a powerful cultural artifact in their own right, not of a lost world, but of our own enduring fascination. They represent the ultimate cautionary tale in the search for ancient mysteries. The Ica stones teach a difficult but essential lesson. The line between a genuine archaeological puzzle and an elaborate fabrication can be dangerously thin. They exploit the very human tendency to want to believe, to find evidence that our history is far more wondrous and strange than we ever imagined. This phenomenon forces a crucial introspection. Are we seeking the truth of the past, or are we seeking a truth that fits our desires? The stones remind us that the most important tool in any investigation is not just wonder, but a disciplined and unwavering skepticism. For every Antikythera mechanism, a genuine artifact that forces us to reconsider our timeline, there may be an Ica stone waiting in the wings, a beautiful story carved not to enlighten but to deceive. While the pyramids and the Antikythera mechanism represent advanced knowledge, a discovery in Turkey challenges the foundational sequence of civilization itself. Göbekli Tepe is a sprawling temple complex carved from the bedrock of a windswept hill, a site so ancient it defies easy comprehension. Its oldest circles date back to around 9600 BC, a time when humanity was supposed to be living in small, nomadic bands of hunter-gatherers. Yet here we find immense stone pillars, some weighing over 10 tons, arranged into precise circles and decorated with exquisite carvings of animals, from scorpions and lions to birds and foxes. This was not a simple settlement. This was a cathedral built 6,000 years before Stonehenge, and a staggering 7,000 years before the Great Pyramid of Giza. The sheer scale of labor involved is the first insurmountable puzzle. Quarrying, transporting, and erecting these colossal T-shaped monoliths would have required a large, coordinated workforce, all needing to be fed, housed, and organized. According to everything we thought we knew, such complex social organization was only possible after the invention of agriculture, which provided the food surplus to support specialized laborers who were not directly involved in hunting or gathering. Göbekli Tepe turns this logic completely upside down. The evidence suggests that hunter-gatherers drawn from across the region came together to build this monumental sanctuary before they had learned to farm the land. This was not a society born from surplus, but one that created a project so grand it may have necessitated the invention of agriculture. How do you feed hundreds of workers without farms? You might start by deliberately cultivating the wild grasses growing on the hills around your temple, a practical need that could have sparked the Neolithic Revolution. The carvings themselves are another layer of the enigma. They are not primitive scratches. They are sophisticated, deeply etched artworks displaying a rich symbolic world and a shared mythology. This implies abstract thought and complex communication on a scale we never attributed to pre-agricultural peoples. Göbekli Tepe is not a machine of gears and levers, but a social machine, an engine for organizing human labor and belief on a monumental scale. Its very existence forces a profound question. Did civilization not emerge slowly from the drudgery of farming, but from a collective, spiritual impulse to build something magnificent for the gods? Perhaps the timeline of human progress is not a straight line from simple to complex, but a story with a much more mysterious and awe-inspiring beginning. These stone walls did not merely burn, they melted. Scattered across the hills of Scotland and the highlands of France stand the skeletal remains of Iron Age forts, but their ramparts hold a secret that fire cannot explain. Vast sections of these ancient stone walls have been transformed into a solid, glassy substance, as if the very rock had flowed like lava before freezing again. This is vitrification, a process that demands a sustained and blistering heat of over 1,100 degrees Celsius. How could Iron Age people, centuries before the rise of the Roman Empire, generate and control such an inferno? The conventional explanations begin to strain under the sheer scale of the phenomenon. Perhaps attackers laid massive, deliberate fires against the base of the walls in a prolonged siege. Yet, to fuse entire stretches of fortification, that fire would need to rage with a uniform intensity that is incredibly difficult to achieve in the open air across uneven stone surfaces. The fuel required would be staggering, a small forest worth of timber piled meticulously against the walls. Even then, such a blaze would more likely cause the stones to crack and crumble into rubble, not melt and fuse together into a continuous vitreous sheet. This leads to a more unsettling question. What if the heat source was not a simple bonfire, but something far more concentrated and powerful? The sheer impossibility of the task has given rise to more speculative theories. Could these forts be the scorched evidence of a forgotten high-temperature technology? Some have looked at the glassified stone and seen the aftermath of a directed energy weapon, a terrible device that focused immense thermal energy onto its target. Others, looking for a historical parallel, point to the trinitite glass created at the Trinity nuclear test site in New Mexico, where the desert sand was fused by the atomic blast. Is it possible, they ask, that these hillsides are the silent witnesses to an ancient conflict so advanced it harnessed the power of the atom itself? While these ideas stretch the boundaries of credibility, they emerge from a very real and tangible puzzle. The vitrified forts are not a matter of interpretation like a mysterious carving. They are a physical, material fact. The glass is real. The intense heat that created it was real. This evidence stands in plain sight, a permanent scar on the landscape that challenges our understanding of what was thermally possible in the deep past. Whether the cause was a spectacularly efficient siege technique we have yet to replicate, a catastrophic accident involving some lost method of smelting, or something else entirely, these forts remain as stubborn enigmas. They are monuments not just to a long-vanished people, but to a thermal event of such ferocity that its cause has evaporated from history, leaving only its glassy signature behind for us to decipher. Deep beneath the humid earth of Zhejiang province, an entire hidden world was waiting. The Longyou Caves are not simple holes in the ground, but a subterranean megalithic project of almost incomprehensible ambition. Discovered by accident in 1992 by local farmers pumping out a pond, these caverns revealed themselves to be not natural formations, but something entirely different. At least 24 massive, hand-carved grottos stretch into the darkness, each one an enormous man-made hollow in the sandstone bedrock. The sheer volume of stone removed is staggering, estimated at 1 million cubic meters. To put that in perspective, that is enough rock to fill 40 Olympic-sized swimming pools, all excavated by hand over 2,000 years ago. before the first emperor of a unified China even rose to power. But it is not the scale alone that baffles engineers. It is the perfection. Stepping inside one of these caves is like walking into the belly of a colossal, geometric beast. The walls, ceilings, and massive support pillars are carved with a relentless, almost machine precision. The angles where the walls meet the ceilings are sharp and consistent throughout each cavern. Most telling of all, the entire surface area of the walls and soaring ceilings are covered in a uniform pattern of parallel chisel marks, a kind of artistic fingerprint left by the ancient workers. This is not the random, haphazard scraping of a simple mining operation. This is the signature of a standardized, repeatable technique, applied with unwavering discipline across an immense project. How did the project managers ensure every worker, across what must have been generations, adhered to the exact same angle and the exact same pattern? The purpose of this titanic effort is a ghost that haunts the empty halls. There are no artifacts, no inscriptions, no wall paintings to give a clue. This was not a tomb, not a temple, and not a mine. It feels more like a subterranean factory floor, but one built for a process we can no longer comprehend. The organizational feat required is what truly challenges our timeline. Coordinating the labor, feeding the workers, and managing the removal of such an unbelievable amount of rubble, all while maintaining this obsessive level of precision, implies a social structure and a command of engineering logistics that we simply do not attribute to that era. This was not just a group of people digging. This was a civilization executing a master plan, leaving behind a void so immense and so perfect that its silent, empty spaces ask the most profound question of all. What could possibly have been important enough to warrant carving a secret, inverted mountain? High on the desolate face of Mount Baigong in China, the mountain itself seems to have been engineered. 3 near-perfect triangular openings stare out from the rock, each one a doorway into the deep, dark interior. Inside these caves and scattered across the arid ground outside lies a network of hundreds of rust-colored iron pipes. They come in a startling array of diameters, from as thin as a toothpick to wider than a tree trunk, and they follow a disturbingly logical path, some running straight into the mountain's heart, while others plunge directly into the waters of a nearby saltwater lake. When researchers first managed to date these metallic conduits, the results were baffling. The pipes appeared to be ancient, with some estimates placing their formation at a time long before any known human civilization could have settled this remote and inhospitable region, perhaps as far back as 150,000 years. The immediate, thrilling conclusion was that this was the plumbing of a lost, advanced society. Yet, geology offers a different, equally fascinating story. Experts point to a natural process known as root cast formation. Imagine a prehistoric forest where giant trees once stood. Over eons, their roots decayed, leaving hollow tunnels in the soil. Then, over millions of years, iron-rich water percolated through these hollows, depositing mineral layers that gradually built up, eventually replacing the organic material entirely with solid iron oxide, creating a perfect pipe-like cast of the long-vanished root system. This explanation accounts for the random branching, the varied sizes, and the metallic composition. The Baigong Pipes, therefore, stand as a profound lesson in perception. They force us to confront a critical question: how do we tell the difference between a manufactured artifact and a masterpiece of natural mimicry? They are a powerful reminder that our planet is a factory of immense and complex processes, capable of producing structures that look for all the world like the work of intelligent hands, blurring the line between a lost technology and the slow, patient artistry of the Earth itself. A piece of ancient linen folded in a darkened chapel holds an image that science cannot yet replicate. The Shroud of Turin is not a device of gears and levers, yet it presents a technological puzzle as profound as any we have encountered. This 14-foot-long cloth bears the haunting, faint imprint of a man who appears to have suffered crucifixion, complete with wounds that correspond precisely to the biblical account of Jesus Christ. For centuries, faith alone sustained its legend, but in the modern era, science stepped in and the mystery only deepened. Radiocarbon dating conducted in the late 1980s placed the cloth's origin in the medieval period, around the 1300s. This seemed to settle the matter, branding it an ingenious forgery. Yet, that conclusion unraveled as quickly as it formed. Critics pointed out that the sample used for dating may have been taken from a medieval patch repair, not the original cloth, contaminated by centuries of handling, fire, and water. The image itself defies all conventional explanation. It is not painted. There are no pigments, no brushstrokes, no outlines. The coloration resides only in the outermost microns of the linen fibers, a superficial change so precise that no known medieval technique could have achieved it. The image is a perfect photographic negative, a concept unknown until the 19th century. When photographed in 1898, the negative plate revealed a startlingly detailed positive image, a face with three-dimensional information encoded in the varying intensity of the stain. How could a medieval forger create an image they could never see, using a physical principle they could never comprehend? This paradox has led researchers to propose extraordinary theories. Some suggest the image was formed by a brief, intense burst of radiation, a directional flux of energy that scorched the cloth from a body lying within it, a process akin to scorching. Others wonder if it represents a form of primitive photography where a chemical process, perhaps involving light-sensitive compounds and a powerful light source, projected the image onto the linen. If either of these radical ideas holds any truth, the shroud ceases to be a simple relic. It becomes the output of a machine, a device or a natural event capable of imprinting a perfect, stable, and chemically inexplicable image onto a textile. The technology required, whether a controlled radiation source or a sophisticated understanding of optics and chemistry, would represent an anachronism so staggering it challenges our entire understanding of historical capability. The question is no longer merely one of authenticity, but of mechanism. What forgotten process, what lost moment of technological or energetic phenomenon could have left such an indelible and inexplicable mark upon the fabric of history itself? A single man moved over 1,000 tons of coral rock in the dead of night. Edward Leedskalnin's Coral Castle is not an ancient ruin, but a 20th-century monument to a secret that died with its creator. Working entirely alone from 1923 to 1951, this eccentric Latvian immigrant quarried, carved, and erected massive stone blocks, some weighing as much as 30 tons. He built towering obelisks, a 9-ton gate that a child could push open, and a perfectly accurate sundial, all with no witnesses and only the most basic tools visible on his property. Leedskalnin himself was a slight man, standing just 5 feet tall and weighing barely 100 pounds, a physical profile that makes his accomplishment seem even more impossible. He claimed he had uncovered the methods used by the ancient builders of the pyramids, a secret he guarded with intense suspicion. The central question is not about the age of the structure, but the method. How could one man, with the technology of the 1920s, achieve what normally requires industrial cranes and a team of engineers? The mystery deepens when you consider the logistics. Witnesses reported seeing him work, but never how he moved the colossal stones. He stated he understood the laws of weight and leverage, and sometimes cryptically mentioned knowing how the Egyptians and the ancient temple builders at Stonehenge had worked. This suggests he was not using magic, but a profound and perhaps forgotten application of simple physics. He was likely employing a system of block and tackle, pivots, and counterweights in such an ingenious way that it multiplied his own strength exponentially. The real puzzle of Coral Castle is that it demonstrates how a lone individual, armed with nothing but principle and persistence, could replicate feats that we assume are only possible with modern machinery. It stands as a powerful, modern echo of the ancient enigmas, a living proof that the gap between the impossible and the achievable might be bridged not by advanced technology, but by a deeper, more intuitive understanding of the world's fundamental forces. These scattered clues from across the globe begin to form a startling picture when you step back to see them together. A corroded bronze computer from Greece, a clay jar battery from Mesopotamia, and a subterranean city of caves in China all point toward a shared truth. Our history is not the clean, upward slope we were taught. Instead, these anomalies sketch a landscape of jagged peaks and deep valleys, a story of brilliant flashes in the dark followed by long periods of forgetting. The evidence reveals three powerful patterns that echo across continents and millennia. First, we see a recurring mastery of stone. The impossible boxes of Saqqara, the vitrified forts of Scotland, and the perfect spheres of Costa Rica all speak to a relationship with stone that goes far beyond simple chisel work. It suggests a lost science of materials, a way of cutting, softening, or even fusing rock that we can scarcely comprehend today. Second, there is a universal obsession with the stars. The Antikythera Mechanism tracked planetary movements with clockwork precision. The Great Pyramid's shafts aligned with specific constellations, and the Nazca Lines may have turned an entire desert into a celestial calendar. This was not primitive stargazing, but a sophisticated, mathematical understanding of cosmic cycles, encoded into stone and metal. Third, and perhaps most profound, is the repeated evidence of fundamental physics. The Walking Moai demonstrate a genius-level application of leverage and balance. The Delhi pillar showcases a molecular-level command of metallurgy. These are not lucky accidents. They are the applied principles of engineering, the kind of knowledge that forms the bedrock of modern technology. So what does this collective pattern mean? It strongly suggests that the linear model of human progress is a comforting fiction. The timeline is not a straight line from primitive to advanced. It is more like a tapestry with frayed edges and missing threads, where knowledge blooms in one era only to be lost in a cataclysm, a war, or simply the slow decay of time, forcing a new culture to rediscover the same principles centuries later. This was not necessarily a single, global Atlantis that sank beneath the waves. It is more likely a story of multiple, independent golden ages, isolated sparks of genius that flickered brilliantly against the darkness before being snuffed out, leaving behind only their most durable creations as silent, stubborn clues. These scattered clues from across the globe form a startling picture of our past. We have wandered through a gallery of ancient marvels, from the intricate bronze gears of a Greek shipwreck to the mysteriously melted stone of Scottish forts. Each artifact, each enigmatic site, presents a single piece of a puzzle that stubbornly refuses to fit within our conventional historical frame. While a healthy skepticism and the rigorous methods of science are our essential guardians against pure fantasy, the sheer volume and stunning variety of these timeline-challenging discoveries demand something more from us. They require an open and perpetually curious mind. History, it turns out, is not a closed book with a final chapter written. It is a living narrative, constantly being revised with every new excavation and every fresh analysis of the evidence left behind. Perhaps the greatest lesson from these silent stones and corroded metals is one of profound humility. It asks us to acknowledge that our ancestors, with their own unique drives and genius, may have been far more inventive and capable than our modern world has often allowed. The search for definitive answers is far from over, so keep questioning the stories you are told, keep exploring the boundaries of the possible, and share your own thoughts on these enduring mysteries.